He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We know he's losing it. Yes. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Thank you.
A few years later.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Marc Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
Boy, 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 boy. I gotta tell you guys, a full-blown political war has broken out between the Trump administration and the New York State Democrats. Now, we've already talked about the pawn in this game, Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, who is under the control of the Democrats, or at least he was until the Trump administration decided to swoop in and to take control of Eric Adams to help out with the mass deportations, because the New York State Democrats are trying to subvert federal laws. They're obstructing the federal government, ICE, from deporting illegal immigrant criminals and gang members in the state and in the city. Now, this is something that upsets the Democrats because they have to protect their illegal immigrants at all costs, okay? And as we discussed in a prior video today, Kathy Hochul did not rule out the idea of Eric Adams being forcefully removed by her as mayor of New York City. Again, this is the first time that we've ever seen Democrats be upset about a black man getting off, right? Because the Trump DOJ is trying to drop the charges against Eric Adams, and they're crying about this because it seems as if a black man is running away, escaping the Democrat Party plantation, right? This is what really pisses them off, okay? Taking away their illegals and taking away their black puppets, right? So with that being said, what really pissed off the Democrats was the fact that the Trump administration literally snatched millions of dollars, $80 million out of the bank account of the city to reclaim the funds that were being used to house illegal immigrants, right? These were FEMA funds, and New York has been using FEMA funds to house illegal immigrants, something that the Trump administration explicitly tried to stop via executive order, but because you have woke activists that are still at these big government institutions and agencies, it went out anyways.
Walk me through how you discovered this.
Yeah. So yesterday morning, my chief budget deputy controller says $80 million is gone from the Treasury account of the Department of Finance. We think it was taken back by the federal government.
Did you know they could do that?
Never. I said, has this ever happened before? It is unprecedented. They gave us this money. As you say, Congress authorized it. We have a contract, a signed contract. We sent them an invoice detailing all those expenses to only $12.50 a night on hotels. They sent us the money and approved the invoice. And then, lo and behold, they just yank it right back. It is highway robbery.
Now, I want to be clear on one technical detail. I thought that we discovered that Treasury has some secret back end through the financial system to take people's money, which seemed really worrisome. This was an ACH payment, which technically can be canceled within 5 days. Although anyone who's ever gotten like a direct deposit knows that when it shows up in your bank, it's in your bank. You have the money.
Now, let's be clear. I mean, we spent it last year.
Right.
We had actually moved it over the 5 days since they gave it to us. So when they actually did the clawback, it caused the account to overdraft by $79.5 million.
That really upset the Democrats to the point where Letitia James is now lashing out against Elon Musk, President Trump, Doge, for taking away their FEMA funds. Take a look.
Save checks and balances! Save checks and balances! Save checks and balances!
And as attorneys general, we're not going to bow to the president or to Elon Musk. It's important that individuals understand that right now Elon Musk is untethered to any accountability at all. And the fact is that they would like for us to engage in an ideological litmus test. And that's why they've paused funds. That's why they have freezed Social Security and veterans payments, and payments to the state of New York and to states all across this nation. It is unacceptable, unconstitutional, ultra-vires. They have exceeded their authority. And so it's important that attorneys general representing our respective states stand up and enforce the rule of law, because Elon Musk, individuals at the Treasury, and the President of these United States is not above the law. And we will continue. You know, as attorneys general, we've been preparing for this. This is not the outcome that we wanted. We wanted to cooperate. But when you challenge the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, we acted. And we got a TRO. When you challenge the NIH, individuals who are engaging in research to find a cure to cancer, to find a cure to a cardiac disease, we got a TRO. Funding, when you pause the funding of countless number of agencies, Meals on Wheels, veteran services, law enforcement grants, we got a TRO. And we're not finished yet. So we're gonna march into court each and every time to uphold the law, to uphold the Constitution, and let the president and Elon Musk and his minions know that you cannot restructure our government. This is not a unilateral form of government. Congress is a co-equal branch of government, and the separation of powers requires that you get consent of the United States Congress. And we are confident today that we will get a preliminary injunction. Any questions?
Yeah, so you saying that, you heard that, okay? Letitia James is really upset. She's really mad about the fact that the Trump administration has basically shown the New York Democrats that they're not playing games, okay? Pam Bondi has filed a lawsuit against the state of New York. You also have funds frozen to sanctuary cities. We're talking about billions of dollars. You're talking about the actions of President Trump and Elon Musk. All of that together is really pissing them off, right? They're losing it right now, okay? But hey, you know, it is what it is, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the American people are on the side of President Trump, Elon Musk, the DOJ, when it comes to deporting illegal immigrant criminals from this country, which is something that Democrats like Letitia James are defending, right? They are defending that. And when it comes to making the government more efficient, to stop all this wasteful spending. In fact, there's more and more and more evidence that is coming out suggesting that this is what the voters want. Like, for example, Axios posted a poll where 11 out of 11 swing voters praised President Trump and Elon Musk for their actions, right? They actually agree with this, okay? So, for example, you had one participant say that it's needed to get America back on track, and that the group had little concern that Trump's moves, many of which are facing court challenges, could lead to a constitutional crisis. When asked about the possibility of Trump defying the Supreme Court, another participant said, quote, "That wouldn't happen. I'm not even thinking about it." Another dismissed the idea as fear-mongering. The view of Musk was equally approving and trusting, with little concern expressed in relation to questions about a conflict of interest while he pushes the federal cost-cutting agenda. Quote, "I approve because I believe he's transparent, and we haven't had that for the last 4 years," one participant said. Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. So what's happening here? Well, what's happening is what tends to happen when the mainstream liberal media, they all freak out at one time and start boohoo whining and crying the same thing, right? Constitutional crisis, democracy is under attack. It backfires, right? The voters are saying that, wait, hold on now. You mean to tell me that we have a constitutional crisis because Elon Musk is working to try to make the government more efficient. In fact, if you actually listen to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who's working with the Doge team in regards to what Doge is doing, the whole constitutional crisis thing, it just sounds ridiculous when you understand a vast majority of their work is IT and software related. Take a look.
President Trump has ordered that the accountability, and by the amount of squawking we're seeing, I've only been in Washington for 3 weeks, and what I can tell you is people don't like when you move their cheese, but it's not their cheese, it's the American taxpayers' cheese.
What cheese has been found in the IRS that might be eaten by the rats? What's going on at the IRS today with Doge?
Well, look, I don't know what we're going to find at the IRS, but I can tell you with the IRS, I have 3 goals: collections, privacy, and customer service. And I don't think that there is anyone who thinks that either of those 3 categories is firing on all cylinders by any means.
Could the IRS be, melded into another agency or shrunk significantly?
Well, I think what we can do is we're at the advent of this great AI revolution. And the IRS, from my understanding, has 12 different IT systems that operate on a system called COBOL, which is what I learned to program in college in the 80s.
That's obsolete now.
So we're going to do a big IT upgrade, and then we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah. So again, I will reiterate. I think that Elon Musk and his team, the Doge team, primarily they're focused on software engineering type stuff, right? They're focused on trying to upgrade the infrastructure of the federal government, which is something that, I think most reasonable people should agree, right? We should upgrade our ancient systems, right? They end up costing taxpayers more money to maintain. And yes, there are some things that they're pointing out that are wasteful that we certainly shouldn't be spending money on, but the final decisions are being made by the secretaries and President Trump himself, right? I don't think that Elon Musk is making any final decisions, right? That's just my gut feeling in regards to the setup. But Elon Musk is a convenient target for the mainstream liberal media to boohoo, whine, and cry about, because essentially that deflects attention away from other things, right, that the Trump administration is doing that the media will also boohoo, whine, and cry about, right? I actually think what's happening right now is genius, okay? It is definitely being done on purpose. The Trump administration has realized that the media outrage, the constant 24/7 Trump derangement actually just makes Trump stronger, right? He just gets stronger and stronger and stronger because the media has zero credibility. So if the media supports something, then the American people dislike it. If the media dislikes something, then the American people support it. That's literally what's happening. That's why Doge's approval rating is starting to go up. So don't be surprised if the approval for Doge continues to go up as they expose more waste, fraud, and abuse. So without further ado, let's actually watch this clip from News Nation about how there are 14 Democrat states that are challenging Doge's authority, and these lawsuits are being led by Letitia James, of course. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Also expecting a hearing today on a federal judge's injunction blocking Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency from accessing sensitive payment systems within the Treasury Department. A coalition of Democratic state attorneys general is suing the Trump administration over this, claiming that by giving Doge access to the Treasury's central payment system, the Trump administration is violating federal law. Let's talk more about this with Jesse Weber, attorney, host, and News Nation legal contributor. Jesse, it's always great to have you. These 19 state attorneys general contend that Doge staffers who were characterized as special government employees were unlawfully granted access to the system. So basically they're saying, right, wait a minute, you want access to this, you go through Congress, you go through the DOJ. And the DOJ is saying instead the president has the power to do this. Lay out those arguments for us, Jesse.
So first, I'll start with the Trump administration's argument that the president has the sole authority to manage, direct, oversee the executive branch and the executive authority, and that you having an injunction or a temporary restraining order is unconstitutionally interfering with his duties to do that, and that he has a right through executive action to direct agencies to take certain actions. And by the way, with the whole Elon Musk of it all, we could talk about how he's an unelected official here, how he's directing things, but the counter argument to that would be he's not actually doing anything. He can't order someone to be fired. He can't order certain payments to be stopped. He can advise it. Now, the counter argument, the one that we're hearing from the AGs, is that this is unconstitutional for a number of reasons. Number one, you mentioned Congress, that it's Congress who manages the spending and payments, that whatever, even an executive action from the president, even though it has the force of law and it's directing an agency to do something, you can't direct the agency to break the law. In other words, you have to make sure you have the authority. DOJ has the authority to do this. And one of the things you'll hear a lot about in this discussion is called the Administrative Procedure Act, the APA. And basically what that says is you can't direct agencies to do something that's arbitrary and capricious. So if you're going to grant access to all of these political appointees, and the judge actually created a separation between civil servants and political appointees, you need reason, you need evidence, you need facts. It can't look arbitrary on its face. Why do they need all this access? And granting access to people in this capacity, not Treasury Department employees per se, that is what creates a high risk, privacy risk, a safety risk. That was something that was cited by the judge. So you have two different arguments right there.
Yeah, so those are the arguments, okay? Now, ultimately, what is going to happen is that the Republicans in Congress are going to have to do their damn jobs. Okay, and this is something that was outlined by Byron Donalds, who I think did a good job of summarizing exactly how the DOJ cuts can become permanent. But again, it comes down to Congress.
Well, two minor things. I think number one, it's been 19 days or so into the Trump administration. And so I think there's a little bit of patience that you have to have. They're going through the initial work of going through these agencies. To your broader point of how it's just not the executive branch doing it on its own. There's two other points about that. Point number one, in a lot of federal law, this is the fault of Congress, both parties over decades. Congress, when we write law now, we don't itemize specifically what the federal agencies need to do. Most of the law is written to say, at the discretion of the secretary of blah, 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 these things occur. So that's how you can have a special employee like Elon Musk go through the agencies and say, stop everything. I want to examine this. I want to examine that, etc. I think the other piece is that this is going to have to come back to Congress if you actually want to get the savings, because in the next appropriation cycle, we're then going to have to either make sure that we pull down the number of dollars that we're going into some of these agencies across the board, or write more stringent rules about how some of this money can be disseminated by the executive branch. I think both things need to occur, but to a broad level, it's been 18, 19 days. They're still just getting their sea legs, even though you can tell Donald Trump and his team do have a plan of how they want to go about executing his agenda through this administration.
Yeah, so what Congressman Byron Donalds just outlined there is exactly what I've been telling you guys about, how a lot of this is the fault of Congress. Okay, Congress is not specific enough when it comes to what the funds can be used for. And when you have these federal bureaucrats that are in charge of these millions and billions of dollars, and they're not being told specifically what they can do with it, okay, what happens is that it creates a slush fund, right? And that slush fund results in the government paying for things that they should not pay for. The problem is that Congress does not audit the programs and the institutions and the agencies that they create, right? They don't actually go through and say, hey, you know what? Should we be giving this much money to this agency, right? Should we actually be spending money on this and that and all the other waste, fraud, and abuse stuff that happens throughout these agencies? No, they never do that, right? Again, the Democrats are upset about this, but they had a chance to fix it, okay? Obama talked about it. Like, many Democrats talked about this before in the past.
Well, from the day I took office, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. At a time when families have had to cut back, have had to make some tough decisions about getting rid of things that they don't need in order to make the investments that they do, we thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. Obviously, this is even more important given the deficits that we've inherited and that have grown as a consequence of this recession. This makes these efforts even more imperative. Now, this does mean making some tough choices. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. A lot of the action is in Congress and legislative and in the budget. I know that the Joint Committee on trying to reduce our deficits are engaged in a very difficult conversation right now, and we want to encourage them to complete their work. But in the meantime, we don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there.
Wow, sounds like Obama tried to create a constitutional crisis, right? That's what it sounds like to me, okay? Again, it's just so funny how every single time, it doesn't matter what it is, okay, you can go back in the past and find Democrats advocating for the very things that they claim that they're standing against today. Ain't it funny how that works? It really shows you how extreme this party has become. They just lack common sense, right? They used to have some. Now they have none, zero. Because they're led by woke, radical lunatics, Trump deranged lunatics like Letitia James, who belongs in a jail cell, right? And I'm hoping and praying that is what ends up happening, okay, to Miss Letitia James at the end of all this. Because we all know this woman is a criminal that weaponized her office, her position of power to go after her political opponents. She literally ran on trying to get Trump. And it's now time for her to face some accountability. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.